We are at Pocasset Cemetery in Grady County, Oklahoma. 550 people are in the cemetery. It's beautiful 83 degrees today. We came out to see Carl Sinclair, Chief Aduddell. We came out to put a flag on his grave. However, I didn't find the exact grave, but I found the location spot. Carl had 2 children that passed away at birth, and they were buried there. Carl Sinclair, Chief Aduddell, was born January 18, 1899, in Cabanas, Pittsburgh, Oklahoma. Carl was born to a Baptist preacher and his wife, John Lafette Aduddell, who was 24 years old at the time of Carl's birth, and Annie A., maiden name of Frazier, who was 20 years old at the time of Carl's birth. Carl's mother passed away when he was 8 months old, and Carl's father passed away when he was 15 years of age. I am researching the father currently, so look for that video as well, please. Carl spent his early childhood with his father and grandparents on a farm near Scipio, Scipio, Tobuscue County, Choctaw Nation, Indian Territory, which today, in 2022, is McAllister, Pittsburgh County, Oklahoma. I am in the process of researching the Aduddell farm, so look for that video as well, please. After both of his parents had passed away in February 1914, at the age of 16 years old, he moved in with relatives in a small town, Pocasset, located in Grady County, Oklahoma. Carl lived with his distant relatives, the Osborns, for a year, and he worked for Mr. Robert Sand Osborn. While living with his distant relatives, he had fallen in love with the Osborns' daughter, Maud May Osborn. Carl thought of their future together, so he joined the United States Army a year later in 1917 at the age of 18 years old. On November 9, 1918, he married Maud May Osborn. Subsequently, he returned to the Army as he was currently enlisted and at home on a leave pass to get married. Carl was in the Army for 2 years. He left the Army in 1919, where he returned to his wife and distant family, whom gave him a shelter at a young age, and he returned to the same small town of Pocasset, Oklahoma. 5 years later, Carl and Maud had their first of 3 children. August 19, 1920, Carl Osborn Aduddell was born. If you have not seen his video, you should. He followed in his father's footsteps. On January 19, 1924, an infant daughter was born. Unfortunately, she passed away the same day at birth. She's buried at the beginning of the video I showed under the tree at the main entrance to Pocasset Cemetery behind the donation sign in an unmarked grave. 8 years later, on January 11, 1932, Carl and Maud had a son who unfortunately passed away as well at birth. He's buried beside his sister under the tree in an unmarked grave. At birth, Carl was not given a middle name, which wasn't uncommon at that time period. Carl adopted the middle name of Sinclair. Carl was called Chief by his family and friends, and Uncle Chief by a niece. Carl and Maud lived in several small towns, but they were developing towns. Pocasset, Grady County, Chickasha, Grady County, Enid, Garfield County, Muskogee County, which is 48 miles southeast of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tulsa County, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County. They moved to Missouri for a short time frame, and they lived in St. Louis and Poplar Bluff. Carl enjoyed horseback riding. Interested in law enforcement, Carl worked as a revenuer for the federal government during these years. A revenuer worked for the U.S. Treasury Department. His title would have been a special agent revenuer. His responsibilities were to enforce laws against illegal distilling or bootlegging of moonshine or any alcoholic liquor. Bootlegging was illegal manufacture, transport, distribution, or sale of alcoholic beverages during the Prohibition period, which was 1920 to 1933, when those activities were forbidden under the 18th Amendment, year 1919, to the U.S. Constitution. Carl began working for the Frisco Railroad as a railroad investigator or special agent, where his duties would include investigations of property theft, asset protection. A railroad investigator was almost always first at the scene of a derailment to investigate the scene, speed traveled, possible impairment or violation by the conductor and or engineer, and to protect merchandise or cargo on the train. Back in the day, before federal regulations were implemented, the railroad investigator would work around the clock and or be on call or on notice when needed. Schooled in safety classes were qualifications for the employment. A railroad investigator would arrest transients who blocked the path of a train or who decided to hitch a ride on the train, which was illegal and dangerous to do. He would have been under the leadership of the Director of Special Services, who was quartered in Springfield, Missouri. His second in command was a Lieutenant Special Services. Each division was led by a division special agent and an assistant division special agent. Each major terminal was led by a senior special agent and an assistant senior special agent, who was in charge of 4 to 6 special agents. Unless it was a smaller railroad, usually there was one special agent on duty for the whole railroad. The agents were given the nickname PIs or Pussyfoots by the railroad employees in reference to a cat not being heard while it walked. The agents were to maintain safety protocol. The agents were issued a gun, badge, club, and worked with the seasoned special agent, which had the nickname of a grizzly for a grizzly bear. In 1978, Law Enforcement Academy began, and special agents would have been CLEAT-certified police officers. Carl was an active member of the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association. Carl was an active member of the American Legion, which was chartered by Congress in 1919 as a patriotic veterans organization. Carl was a Freemason, which is a fraternal, men-only order, the largest worldwide secret society, an oath-bound society, featured often helping others, discipline, fellowship, business, and mutual assistance. They were geared towards self-betterment. Carl was a member of the Salome Lodge 276. Current physical address is 4201 Northwest 39th Street in Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. Carl was a member of the Scottish Rite Masonic Temple. Physical address 900 East Oklahoma Avenue, Guthrie, Oklahoma. One of the world's large Masonic centers. The Great Temple of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Classes were given at the temple. Carl was a member of the India Temple Shrine Center. Physical address 3601 Northwest 36th Street, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. The India Shrine was formed by Shriners International, May 4th, 1893, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. Their philanthropy work is the shrine hospitals, which currently consists of 22 facilities in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. On September 10, 1948, Carl's first love, Maud May, passed away at the age of 57 years old, a devoted wife of a police officer. She is buried at the Pocasset Cemetery as well. In less than a year, Carl had met Craig Amanda Smith Goding, 1889 to 1978. They met on August 7, 1949, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. They were married for 6 years, and their union did end in a divorce in 1956. 2 years later, Carl met and married Orla Kim Simmons. No picture is available. On February 7, 1958, they began their lives together, moved to Arizona, and they were united until his death on December 5, 1961. Carl had succumbed to a heart attack. Carl was Choctaw and Chickasaw native. Carl was the son of a Baptist minister. If you have not seen that video of his father, John Lafayette Bud Aduddell, please check that out as well. And as always, thank you for joining us.